welcome. It was to say it was like a rock star welcome in that, wow, everybody wanted to see Donald Trump. If he comes out this way, it'll be the same thing. The crowds around Donald Trump are really big. Stephanie, you've been here. You know that there are world leaders, and sometimes they got a small entourage around them, and the people to take pictures. It's totally different with Donald Trump. He's getting a big reception. Don't know how warm it is, but it's a big reception, and he's going to try and cut some deals. We'll follow it very closely through the course of the day.
All right, we should point out it may be a rock star caliber reception, but there's no rock star stage. The president, no leather pants, no shredded T-shirt. He's still in his classic suit.
Wait a minute, the crazy guy that's demented, that has early onset Alzheimer's, he's getting a great reception? Everybody likes the crazy guy? No, it's the fact is he's earning this. The world is beginning to see the possibility of massive economic growth. And the president is set to deliver a major speech tomorrow. Ed Henry is here later with a full preview of all of that. Now, what's happening with the economy is not a thing. What is taking place is a direct result of the president's policies, which are the complete opposite of the failure of Barack Obama. Take a look at the side of your screen. These are all of the companies, they're giving their workers bonuses and raises because of the president's tax cut. That's more money in the pockets of the forgotten men and women. Remember, they were at the heart of this last election. But, of course, they're completely out of touch Democrats. Look at Nancy Pelosi, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. They're calling these $1,000, $2,000 bonuses crumbs. Now, we're going to have a lot more on that later tonight. Get ready, Nancy. And here's an important point. The tax cuts haven't even taken full effect yet. And we have a record high stock market, over 2.2 million jobs created since Donald Trump was elected, record low unemployment, including all-time lows for African Americans and Hispanics in terms of what their work numbers are, consumer confidence at an all-time high, 2 million fewer people on food stamps, and
39 Sessions Road, 3939 Sessions Road. Look at the 4-year-old female. Fell down the stairs. She's conscious and breathing.
These results speak for themselves. And another fact that proves that President Trump has nothing to hide. According to reports, the White House has voluntarily now handed over 20,000 pages to Robert Mueller and his band of married Democrat donors. You know, like Andrew Weissman and the rest of it. Mueller has collected a whopping, get this, 1.4 million pages of documents.
1-862-74 transport.
That is not something you're going to hear from the mainstream media. That's called transparency. Now, tonight, for example, they're trying to change the story. At this hour, the New York Times is trying to distract you. They have a story
in the ambulance bay area
fired sometime last June, and our sources, and I've checked in with many of them, they're not confirming that tonight. And the president's attorney dismissed the story and says, no comment, we're not going there. And how many times has the New York Times and others gotten it wrong? Here's reaction. Fox News national security strategist, former deputy assistant to the president, Sebastian Gorka. Sebastian, we start with you tonight. If these text messages don't put it over the top for those that have been trying to cling like a lifeline to this phony Russia, Trump narrative, collusion narrative, I don't know what will.
Nothing, Sean. So let's just put this into perspective. Very simply put, one of the most senior agents of the FBI, responsible for the Hillary Surrogate investigation, decided and put it in a text message to his lover, I'm going to give Hillary special treatment because, hey, she might be the next president. That is the definition of the perversion of justice. That is the definition of corruption. And not surprisingly, the Daily Beast is already behind the curve. We know about Comey, we know about Strzok, we know about Rosenstein. Talking to my sources, there are 12 people in this conspiracy at the highest level of the intelligence.
Are these people mentioned in the memo?
No. This is not in the memo. This is page 2. Remember, the memo is the tip of the iceberg. And Sean, I'm worried because the GOP doesn't understand strategic communications. If they don't release this memo now, they will lose the war in this communications battlefield because they're being diligent. They're being very cautious. But the fact is, you see shit out there already spinning. The Republicans are taking weeks and months to get everything double-checked. They will lose the communications war, and the conspiracy will continue. Because these people, sure, they're still at the FBI. They're still at the DOJ. They should have been stripped of their their badge, stripped of their gun, and walked out of the Hoover building months ago.
How is it possible, I think Dr. Gorka raises a good point.
1125
and Elisa Page and Peter Strzok, how do they still have jobs? How does Andrew McCabe still have a job? How is it that James Comey is not under an investigation at this point, and all the others involved in this? How is that possible?
It is possible because of the methods that they know that they can use to create barriers. Number one, somebody should go to jail. And I agree with Dr. Gorka. Yes, the Republicans need to insist. To all of your viewers, you should insist to your representatives and your senators release the memo. The reason that most of the Democrats and the Intelligence Oversight Committee didn't want to read it is because they know it had damaging information. Somebody should go to jail, and until they release that memo, we won't be able to get to the bottom of this. And let's face it, the American people are paying for this. We deserve transparency, and the T in transparency is the truth.
Let's release all of it.
Yes. Now, release them all.
Release them all.
Why don't they want to release them? It's very simple. They have something to hide from the American people and from the public, and they need to release the memos and release the memo. That's pure and simple.
Release the memo and release the text. Dr. Gorka,
yes.
What we are learning tonight, I know it gets confusing. I can put them back on the side of the screen as you're speaking here, but if you look at what Strzok and Page are saying to each other, it is unbelievable to me that all of this happened. They still have a job. Now, they wanted to protect Hillary Clinton unless she became president. They had an insurance policy. Now, we know that Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Page, and Loretta Lynch all knew she was never going to be indicted. That's not an investigation. That's called obstruction of justice, especially in light of what we know. Mishandling classified information, felony,
Sierra Circle, 41290 Sierra Circle. RP's going to be the neighbor stating that the child, 7 years old, has been missing for an hour and a half. First name missing, unknown last name. They advise that the parents are in the area searching for the female at this time. RP will make contact with Tammy Mudd.
Unless you're trying to hide something and obstruct justice.
George, you outlined what Hillary did. And these are all
Do you have eyes on Charlie 250?
the private server,
Yeah, I have eyes on him.
destruction of evidence. These are activities. We know she's a criminal. We know she had accomplices. But what's even worse, under the Obama administration, the FBI's management aided and abetted her. She wasn't sworn under oath. Her evidence, the laptops that they took from her were destroyed not by Hillary, they were destroyed by the FBI. They allowed her best friend, who was also a suspect, to act as her counsel in that interview. How did that happen? That happened because the Obama administration allowed it to happen. And the right name for all of this, Sean, is Obama Gate. Because if he doesn't allow this to happen, it doesn't happen.
Well, I will tell you, I never thought Herman Cain in my lifetime that we would see people as this level of time literally thinking that they could use a bought and paid for phony dossier of Hillary Clinton to get a FISA warrant, first to lie to the American people and propagandize the American people with Russian lies, and then to use that very dossier to get a FISA warrant to spy on an opposition candidate in a presidential election year, and then use it to undermine a president-elect. This is not a banana republic, Herman Cain, but this is the stuff of a banana republic.
John, my last word is simply this. Somebody is going to go to jail. The only question is who and when. And I want to remind people, due process takes time. But somebody is going to jail just based upon the information that we already have. And if we get the other information from the member.
Transfer, you don't know the salvation. What was the number coming out right now? Looks like we're going to dollar hunt on Boeing 203 7142. First citizen assist at 345 Virginia.
Well, good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson. We have exclusive, never-before-seen messages, text messages
We have a
inside the
67-year-old female. Being a phone call earlier from her doctor to be transported to a room at your hospital for a surgery sometime today or tomorrow.
A lot of them are...
Patient is supposed to have a hip replacement, so they instructed her to call 911 for a transport to your facility. Right now she's just complaining of the right hip pain that she's supposed to have a replacement on for, I'm guessing, tomorrow. Her vital signs and blood pressure is 170 over 100. We got a heart rate of 99. She's at 98% on room air, and we have her breathing at 14 times a minute.
You think she's going to remember?
Patient is in a position of comfort, and like I said, this is just a transport to your facility for a room number.
Political concerns were top of mind with the investigators. This politician. Congressman Trey Gowdy of South Carolina chairs the Oversight Committee in the House. He's a member of the Intelligence Committee, and he joins us to react. Congressman, thanks for coming in. Are we reading too deeply into the exchange we just heard on the screen?
Well, I don't think so, because you read that one in isolation. If you read all the text, it's clear that they did not want her charged. They wanted her to be the President of the United States. They really didn't want Donald Trump to be the President of the United States, and they conceived throughout these texts that they did things differently in this investigation from any other investigation that they were part of.
So what I don't understand is, even if you're watching this at home and you think, well, I wanted Hillary to win too, and I don't like Donald Trump too, shouldn't you be a little concerned, maybe actually terrified, that FBI agents conducting a criminal investigation into a politician were worried about the political elements of the investigation? That's not supposed to happen, is it?
Well, you may remember, as I do, Jim Comey telling us that the FBI doesn't give a whit about politics. He loved to tell us how apolitical the Bureau was. And here we have these texts. Of course, our friends on the left say that these are texts between two lovers. You're much more likely to tell the truth when you don't think anybody else is watching. This, I think, is the unvarnished truth of how they viewed both her, him, and the investigation, and how they wanted it to turn out. Keep in mind, Tucker, all of this was done before she was ever interviewed. So the fix was in, unfortunately, before they even interviewed the target of the investigation.
What does it tell you about what they thought of Hillary Clinton? They believed if she became president, she would punish our chief law enforcement agency for investigating her. What does that say about their view of her, or their understanding of her?
It's either that, or I think another reasonable construction could be that she would reward the DOJ, thinking it was more DOJ lawyers that concluded she should not be charged as opposed to the FBI. And that's actually how I read it, that she would give more credit to the Department of Justice. You know, keep in mind, reading these texts, it doesn't appear that anyone wanted her charged before they even knew what she was going to say. I read that to be, they were concerned DOJ would get the credit for taking care of her more than the Bureau would.
You've taken an enormous amount of abuse, as have your colleagues on the Intelligence Committee, as has this channel, for daring to report this news as if asking questions about the behavior of law enforcement officials is unpatriotic. How do you respond to that?
Tucker, there is no one in Congress that has more respect for law enforcement. I spent 18 years working with them. It's the best 18 years of my professional life, and always will be. I love law enforcement, which is why these texts break my heart. Bias is insidious. Bias is the one thing in a courtroom, Tucker, the judge will give you the broadest leeway because it infects and instructs every decision you make when you are biased for or against someone. Right. So when I see manifest bias, think back to other important cases in our country's history. I mean, Mark Furman got in trouble not so much for working the crime scene, but because of racial epithets that he had uttered earlier in his career. That's how seriously we take bias. I don't know why the left can't concede in this case that these two agents should never be investigated.
Well, you would think that Democrats, at some point, it would occur to them that maybe most FBI agents aren't liberal. They're probably conservative. I'd be willing to bet money on that. So if you allow the FBI to let their agents make decisions on the basis of their political beliefs, maybe that's going to hurt Democrats at some point. Maybe all of us have a real interest in clean and ethical government, but they don't seem to have an interest in that right now. Why?
I don't know. I don't like bias. I don't like political bias manifesting itself in an embezzlement case. I don't like it in a bank robbery case. This was an incredibly politically charged case, as was and is the Russia investigation. So politics and political bias is even more important in a case like this. I don't know why the left is straining to minimize the manifest bias that was exhibited by these agents. I don't get it.
I'm sorry to say this, we've got some totally unprincipled people up there with you. I'm sorry about that. Congressman, thank you.
Be a call from apartment 4120. The residents of vacant apartment, pitch black inside, possibly someone broken.
Well, good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. We have exclusive, never-before-seen messages, text messages from inside the FBI. These texts are among the thousands sent between FBI agents Stuart Scott and Lisa Page between February and September of 2016. A lot of them are interesting. Here's a few texts. The agents did exactly what you would hope agents would never do. They expressed concern about whether Hillary Clinton, if she was elected president, would take revenge against the FBI for the crime of investigating her. In exchange, from February of 2016, Agent Page told Agent Strzok, quote, "One more thing, she might be our next president. The last thing you need as going in there later today, you think she's going to remember a chair that was named DOJ in the FBI?" Strzok told Page that he agreed. In other words, political concerns were at top of mind as they investigated this politician, Hillary Clinton. Congressman Trey Gowdy of South Carolina chairs the Oversight Committee in the House. He's a member of the Intelligence Committee, and he joins us to react. Congressman, thanks for coming on. Are we reading too deeply into the exchange we just put on the screen?
Well, I don't think so, because you read that one in isolation. If you read all the text, it's clear that they did not want her charged. They wanted her to be the president of the United States. They really didn't want Donald Trump to be the president of the United States, and they concede throughout these texts that they did things differently in this investigation from any other investigation that they were part of.
So what I don't understand is, even if you're watching this at home and you think, well, I wanted Hillary to win too, and I don't like Donald Trump too, shouldn't you be a little concerned, maybe actually terrified, that FBI agents conducting a criminal investigation into a politician are worried about the political elements of the investigation? That's what's supposed to happen.
You may remember, as I do, Jim Comey telling us that the FBI doesn't give a whit about politics. He loved to tell us how apolitical the Bureau was. And here we have these texts. Of course, our friends on the left say, well, these are texts between two lovers. Yeah, that's right. You're much more likely to tell the truth when you don't think anybody else is watching. This, I think, is the unvarnished truth of how they viewed both her, him, and the investigation, and how they wanted it to turn out. Keep in mind, Tucker, all of this was done before she was ever interviewed. So the fix was in, unfortunately, before they even interviewed the target of the investigation.
What does it tell you about what they're trying to tell you? We believe if she became president, she would chief counsel for the agency.
A little bit of attitude.
What does that say about their view of her? Is that understandable?
I think another reasonable construction could be that she would reward the DOJ, thinking it was more DOJ lawyers that concluded she should not be charged as opposed to the FBI. And that's actually how I read it, that she would give more credit to the Department of Justice. You know, keep in mind, reading these texts, it doesn't appear that anyone wanted her charged before they even knew what she was going to say. I read that to be, they were concerned DOJ would get the credit for taking care of her more than the Bureau would.
You've taken an enormous amount of abuse, as have your colleagues on the Intelligence Committee, as has this channel, for daring to report this news as if asking questions about the behavior behavior of law enforcement officials is unpatriotic. How do you respond to that?
Tucker, there is no one in Congress who has more respect for law enforcement. I spent 18 years working with them, and it's the best 18 years of my professional life, and always will be. I love law enforcement, which is why these bias is the one thing the judge will give you the broadest leeway, because it infects and instructs every decision you make when you are biased for or against someone. So when I see manifest bias, think back to other important cases in our country's history. I mean, Mark Furman got in trouble not so much for working the crime scene, but because of racial epithets that he had uttered earlier in his career. That's how seriously we take bias. I don't know why the left can't concede in this case that these two agents should never have been part of investigating her case.
Well, you would think that Democrats, at some point, it would occur to them that maybe most FBI agents aren't liberal. They're probably conservative. I'd be willing to bet money on that. So if you allow the FBI to let their agents make decisions on the basis of their political beliefs, maybe that's going to hurt Democrats at some point. Maybe all of us have a real interest in clean and ethical government, but they don't seem to have an interest in it right now. Why?
I don't know. I don't like bias. I don't like political bias manifesting itself in an embezzlement case. I don't like it in a bank robbery case. This was an incredibly politically charged case, as was and is the Russia investigation. So politics and political bias is even more important in a case like this. I don't know why the left is straining to minimize the manifest bias that was exhibited by these agents.
I'm trying to say to you, that's some totally unprincipled people up there. I'm sorry about that. Congressman, thank you.
10 quarters. 5 quarters. 354. 10 4 60, 10 4. C118. 53 boy 790, 10 1.
Congressman Darrell Issa, good to have you in New York. From California Court and State County House Judiciary and Court Affairs Committee. You're shaking your head. What's fixed?
Well, Juan doesn't know this, but Deputy McCabe has already said that he was treated like no other witness. And as that comes out, the soft peddling, the actual testimony, people are going to realize that both the Benghazi investigation and then the emails that followed up, these are examples where there's things that standard. But I want to get first in the Benghazi Inspector General, a watchdog, independent watchdog. These men and women, about 74 key IGs, continue to be the best tools we have to get past the fact that there's an internal bias. You mentioned it. People have this bad habit of thinking they protect the institution. For the years I was on the Select Intelligence Committee and for the years I chaired oversight, I discovered that the highest level of classification at any agency is unclassified but embarrassing. That the reality is they will do more to keep you from seeing something embarrassing than they will some Russian spy.
Yeah, I think to protect the institution, to protect the way of life, to protect your job, if it's embarrassing, I agree with you. It's probably the bar here in some cases. What about this 4-page memo? Because we talked to Representative Gates, we spoke to other people.
The bad news is I've read it.
So damning. Is it as damning as the perception? And is Comey named in there? Is Mueller named in there?
Because I've read it, of course I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is that it is a roadmap. It was written by the majority, but it is a roadmap to the support documents that would also have to be made available of just how bad it is and just how wrong. Well, the actions that were taken in this memo alleges actions that I read it, that I believe, and I can't authenticate one versus another, but many of them have been reported. And my question is, you see the memo and it gives you the roadmap to what I Member after member has to go down and read it. We cannot ask the Select Intelligence Committee to declassify it. And I understand, but to get members to go read a document and then be in the situation I'm in where I can talk about all the things we think we know, once you've read it, until the American people see it, you're locked out of talking about it. But I will tell you, the American people have an absolute right to know this, just like some of these other investigations that we've had.
And are you confident that they will?
I'm confident that the committee will vote. I'm sad to say Adam Schiff and the Democrats will all vote no. But then when the people of America see the 4 pages and then the additional documents, what they're going to see is we have a problem in the Pfizer.
So you have no fear whatsoever that when this comes out, people aren't going to say, well, that was a lot of nothing.
The American people keep hearing about Pfizer courts. They keep hearing about...
You're looking for corruption in the FBI. That's basically the message that has been sent, that it's going to be so damning that people are going to be fired as soon as it gets read.
I'm less concerned about that than I am, that we have to fix the institution that allows your Fourth Amendment, your privacy rights to be circumvented using these techniques. You know, remember, this all started off, this whole investigation with the special prosecutor started off trying to prove that Trump's incoming administration colluded with the Russians. And now what you actually have is the Department of Justice colluding with the Democratic Party.
Two sides of this equation that everybody is going to be interested in. Really good speech.
Go ahead.
On the set is Congressman Darrell Issa. It's good to have you in New York, from California, of course, and sits on the House Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committee. You're shaking your head.
Well, you know, Juan doesn't know this, but Deputy McCabe has already said that he was treated like no other witness. And as that comes out, the soft peddling, the actual sworn testimonies, people are going to realize that both the Benghazi investigation and then the email that followed up, these are examples where there's too stretched a standard. But I want to give a shout out. Both in the Benghazi investigation and now at the Department of Justice, it's an inspector general, a watchdog, that goes, still part of the executive branch, that goes out and finds these things. At the IRS, it was the inspector general, a watchdog, independent watchdog. These men and women, about 74 key IGs, continue to be the best tools we have to get past the fact that there's an internal bias. You mentioned it. People have this bad habit of thinking they protect the institution. You know, for the years I was on the Select Intelligence Committee and for the years I chaired oversight, I discovered that the highest level of classification at any agency is unclassified but embarrassed. That the reality is they will do more to keep you from seeing something that embarrasses than they will some Russian spy.
Yeah, I think it's, to protect the institution, to protect the way of life, to protect your job, if it's embarrassing, I agree with you. It's probably the bar here in some cases. What about this 4-page memo? Because we talked to Representative Gates, we spoke with other people.
The bad news is I've read it.
So damning. So, is it as damning as the perception? And is Comey named in there? Is Mueller named in there?
Because I've read it, of course I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is that it is a roadmap. It was written by the majority. But it is a roadmap to the support documents that would also have to be made available of just how bad it is and just how wrong.
Meaning what?
Well, the actions that were taken in this memo alleges actions that I read it, that I believe, and I can't authenticate one versus another, but many of them have been reported, and now it's a question of you see the memo and it gives you the roadmap to what actually happened.
People need to, we need to see this thing.
Well, and you asked the question.
Is that going to happen?
It is going to happen, but here's why it's taking so long. Member after member, and Democrats are choosing not to read it for the most part, member after member has to go down and read it. We cannot ask the Select Intelligence Committee to declassify it.
4 pages.
I understand, but to get members to go read a document and then be in the situation I'm in where I could talk about all the things we think we know, once you've read it, until the American people see it, you're locked out of talking about it. But I will tell you, the American people have an absolute right to know this, just like some of these other investigations that we've had.
And are you confident that they will?
I'm confident that the committee will vote. I'm say Adam Schiff and the Democrats will all vote no. But then when the people of America see the 4 pages and then the additional documents, what they're going to see is we have a problem in the Pfizer.
So you have no fear whatsoever that when this comes out, people aren't going to say, well, that was a lot of nothing.
The American people keep hearing about private courts, they keep hearing about
corruption in the FBI. That's basically the message that has been sent, that it's going to be so damning that people are going to be fired as soon as it gets read.
I'm less concerned about that than I am that we have to fix the institutions that allows your Fourth Amendment, your privacy rights to be circumvented using these techniques. You know, remember, this all started off, this whole investigation with the special prosecutor started off trying to prove that Trump's, incoming administration colluded with Russia. And now what you actually have is the Department of Justice colluding with the Democratic Party.
Two sides of this equation that everybody wants to know the answers to. Congressman Darrell Issa, thank you.
Thank you.
Really good speech.
Charlie 330, 10-4.
Looks like we've got some burning around the edges. We definitely have to pull the rest of the interior. 370, right? 400 block of Lincoln.
On the set is Congressman Darrell Issa. It's good to have you in New York from California, of course, and sits on the House Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committee. You're shaking your head. What's fixed?
Well, Juan doesn't know this, but Deputy McCabe has already said that she was treated like no other witness. And as that comes out, the soft peddling, the actual sworn testimony, people are going to realize that both the Benghazi investigation and then the email that followed up, these are examples where there's two sets of standards. But I want to give a shout-out. Both in the Benghazi investigation and now at the Department of Justice,
you show me my part and can you show me around the show?
That goes, third-party executive branch that goes out and finds people. At the IRS, it was the Inspector General, a watchdog, independent watchdog. These men and women, about 74 EIGs, continue to be the best tools we have to get past the fact that there is an internal bias. You mentioned it. People have this bad habit of thinking they protect the institution. For the years I was on the Select Intelligence Committee and for the years I chaired oversight, I discovered that the highest level of classification at any agency is unclassified but embarrassed. But the reality is they will do more to keep you from seeing something embarrassing than they will some Russian spy.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, to protect the institution, to protect the way of life, to protect your job, if it's embarrassing, I think I agree with you. It's probably the bar here in some cases. What about this 4-page memo? Because we talked to Representative Gates, we spoke to other people.
The bad news is I've read it.
This is so damning. So, is it as damning as the perception? And is Comey named in there? Is Mueller named in there?
Okay. Because I've read it, of course I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is that it is a roadmap. It was written by the majority. But it is a roadmap through the support documents that also have to be made available of just how bad it is and just how wrong.
Meaning what?
Well, the actions that were taken in this memo alleges actions that I read it, that I believe, and I can't authenticate one versus another, but many of them have been reported. And now it's a question of you see the memo and it gives you the roadmap to what actually happened.
People need to, we need to see this thing.
Well, and you asked the question.
Is that going to happen?
It is going to happen, but here's why it's taking so long. Member after member, and Democrats are choosing not to read it in most cases, member after member has to go down and read it. We cannot ask the Select Intelligence Committee to declassify it.
4 pages.
I understand, but to get members to go read a document and then be in the situation I'm in where I could talk about all the things you think we know. Once you've read it, until the American people see it, you're locked out of talking about it. But I will tell you, the American people have an absolute right to know this, just like some of these other investigations.
And are you confident that they will?
I'm confident that the committee will vote. I'm sad to say Adam Schiff and the Democrats will all vote no. But then when the people of America see the 4 pages and then the additional documents, what they're going to see is we have a problem in the FISA.
You have no fear whatsoever that when this comes out, people aren't going to say, well, that was a lot of nothing.
The American people keep hearing about FISA courts, they keep hearing about...
You're looking for corruption in the FBI. That's basically the message that has been sent, that it's going to be so damning that people are going to be fired as soon as it gets read.
I'm less concerned about that than I am, but we have to fix the institution that allows your Fourth Amendment, your privacy rights to be circumvented using these techniques. remember, this all started off, this whole investigation with the special prosecutor started off trying to prove that Trump's, incoming administration colluded with Russia. And now what you actually have is the Department of Justice colluding with the Democratic Party.
Two sides of this equation that everybody wants to know the answer to.
It is a orange and black forklift.
Driver, phone is activated.
2017.
10-4, phone's on the way, thank you.
Well, good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. We have exclusive, never-before-seen messages, text messages from inside the FBI. These texts are among the thousands sent between FBI agents Peter Strzok and Lisa Page between February and September of 2016. A lot of them are text. The agents did exactly what you would hope agents would never do. They expressed concern about whether Hillary Clinton, if she was elected president, would take revenge against the FBI for the crime of investigating her. In exchange, from February of 2016, Agent Page told Agent Strzok, quote, "One more thing. She might be our next president. The last thing you need, us going in there loaded for bear. You think she's going to remember or care that it was more DOJ than the FBI?" Strzok told Page that he agreed. Political concerns were top of mind as they investigated this politician, Hillary Clinton. Congressman Trey Gowdy of South Carolina chairs the Oversight Committee in the House. He's a member of the Intelligence Committee and joins us to react. Congressman, thanks for coming on. Are we reading too deeply into the exchange we just put on the screen?
Well, I don't think so, because you read that one in isolation. If you read all the text, it's clear that they did not want her charged. They wanted her to be the president of the United States. They really didn't want Donald Trump to be the president of the United States, and they concede throughout these texts that they did things differently in this investigation from any other investigation that they were part of.
So what I don't understand is, even if you're watching this at home and you think, well, I wanted Hillary to win too, and I don't like Donald Trump too, shouldn't you be a little concerned, maybe actually terrified, that FBI agents conducting a criminal investigation into a politician were worried about the political elements of the investigation? That's not supposed to happen, is it?
Were you calling me, man?
Well, you may remember as I do Jim Comey telling us that the FBI doesn't give a whit about politics.
Okay, I see 49.
He loved to tell us how apolitical the Bureau was. And here we have these texts. Of course, our friends on the left say, well, these are texts between two lovers. Yeah, that's right. You're much more likely to tell the truth when you don't think anybody else is watching. This, I think, is the unvarnished truth of how they viewed both her, him, and the investigation, and how they wanted it to turn out. Keep in mind, Tucker, all of this was done before she was ever interviewed. So the fix was in, unfortunately, before they even interviewed the target of the investigation.
What does it tell you about what they thought of Hillary Clinton? If she became president, she would punish our chief law enforcement agency for investigating her. What does that say about their view of her, or their understanding of her?
It's either that, or I think another reasonable construction could be that she would reward the DOJ, thinking it was more DOJ lawyers that concluded she should not be charged as opposed to the FBI. And that's actually how I read it, that she would give more credit to the Department of Justice.
You're all broken up, Ivy. You got your phone on you?
Reading these texts, it doesn't appear that anyone wanted their charge before they even knew they were concerned DOJ would get the credit for taking care of her more than the Bureau.
Check with Lieutenant Dooley on the NCID first.
As have your colleagues on the Intelligence Committee, as have your channel, for daring to report this news as if asking questions about the behavior of law enforcement officials is unpatriotic. How do you respond to that?
Tucker, there's no one in Congress that has more respect for law enforcement. I spent 18 years working with them, and it's the best 18 years of my professional life, and always will be. I love law enforcement, which is why these texts break my heart. Bias is insidious. Bias is the one thing in a courtroom, Tucker, the judge will give you the broadest leeway. got in trouble not so much for working the crime scene, but because of racial epithets that he had uttered earlier in his career. That's how seriously we take bias. I don't know why the left can't concede in this case that these two agents should never have been part of investigating this case.
Well, you would think that Democrats, at some point, it would occur to them that maybe most FBI agents aren't liberal. They're probably conservative. I'd be willing to bet money on that. So if you allow the FBI to let their agents make decisions on the basis of their political beliefs, maybe that's going to hurt Democrats at some point. Maybe all of us have a real interest in clean and ethical government, but they don't seem to have an interest in that right now. Why?
I don't know. I don't like bias. I don't like political bias manifesting itself in an embezzlement case. I don't like getting a bank robbery case. This was a incredibly politically charged case, as was the Russia investigation. So politics and political bias is even more important in a case like this. I don't know why the left is straining to minimize the manifest bias that was exhibited by these agents. I don't get it.
I'm sorry to say it's totally unprincipled people up there. Thank you.
They have Delta 330 up there. Check to see if she can do it. Yeah, these people can stay with the other one.
Yeah, on the set is Congressman Darrell Issa. It's good to have you in New York from California, of course, and sits on the House Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committee. You're shaking your head. What's the...
Well, you know, Juan doesn't know this, but Deputy McCabe has already said that she was treated like no other witness. And as that comes out, the soft peddling, the actual sworn testimony, people are going to realize that both the Benghazi investigation and then the email that followed up, these are examples where there's two sets of standards. But I want to give a shout out. First in the Benghazi investigation and now the Department of Justice, it's an Inspector General, a watchdog. That goes, still part of the executive branch, that goes out and finds these things. At the IRS, it was the Inspector General, a watchdog, independent watchdog. These men and women, about 74 PIGs, continue to be the best tools we have to get past the fact that there's an internal bias. You mentioned it. People have this bad habit of thinking they protect the institution. You know, for the years I was on the Select Intelligence Committee and for the years I chaired oversight, I discovered that the highest level of classification at any agency is unclassified but embarrassed. That the reality is they will be more suspicious in doing something embarrassing than they will from what they find.
I think the thing to protect the institution, to protect the way of life, to protect your job, if it's embarrassing, I think I agree with you. Probably the bargain in some cases. Because we saw
the bad news is I read it. Because I've read it, of course I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is that it is a roadmap. It was written by the majority. But it is a roadmap through the support documents that also have to be made available of just how bad it is and just how wrong. Well, the actions that were taken in this memo alleged actions that I read it, that I believe, and I can't authenticate one versus another, but many of them have been reported, and now it's a question of you see the memo and it gives you the roadmap to what actually happened.
People need to, we need to see this thing.
Well, and you asked the question,
is that going to happen?
It is going to happen, but here's why it's taking so long. Member after member, and Democrats are choosing not to read it for the most part, member after member has to go down and read it. We cannot ask the Select Intelligence Committee to declassify it. I understand, but to get members to go read a document and then be in a situation I'm in where I could talk about all the things we think we know, once you've read it, until the American people see it, you're locked out of talking about it. But I will tell you, the American people have an absolute right to know this, just like some of these other investigations.
And are you confident that they will?
I'm confident that the committee will vote. I'm sad to say Adam Schiff and the Democrats will all vote no. But then when the people of America see the 4 pages and then the additional documents, what they're going to see is we have a problem.
You have no fear whatsoever that when this comes out, people aren't going to say, nothing.
The American people keep hearing about FISA courts. They keep hearing about...
They're looking for corruption in the FBI. That's basically the message that has been sent. But it's going to be so damning that people are going to be fired as soon as it gets out.
I'm less concerned about that than I am that we have a institution that allows your Fourth Amendment, your privacy rights to be circumvented using these techniques. You know, remember, this all started off, this whole investigation, this special prosecutor started off trying to prove that Trump's, incoming administration colluded with Russia. And now what you actually have is the Department of Justice colluding with the Democratic Party.
Two sides of this equation that everybody wants to know the answers to. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going
to need a backboard stretcher. We've got C-collar and head block here. They'll from about 16 to 18 feet high. Yes, ma'am. They just cleared up. I'll send my information back to your screen. Delta 345, 10-4.
Well, good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson. We have exclusive, never-before-seen messages, text messages from inside the FBI. These texts are more than 1,000 sent between FBI agents Peter Strzok and Lisa Page between February and September of 2016. A lot of them are interesting. Here's a few texts. The agents did exactly what you would hope agents would never do. They expressed concern about whether Hillary Clinton, if she was elected president, would take revenge against the FBI for the crime of investigating. In exchange, from February of 2006, Agent Page told Agent Strzok, quote, one more thing, she might be our next president. The last thing you need, us going in there loaded for bear. You think she's going to remember or care that it was more DOJ than the FBI? Strzok told Page that he agreed. In other words, political concerns were top of mind as they investigated. Congressman Trey Gowdy of South Carolina chairs the Oversight Committee. He's a member of the Intelligence Committee, and he joins us to react. Congressman, thanks for coming on. Are we reading too deeply into the exchange we just put on the screen?
Well, I don't think so, because you read that one in isolation. If you read all the text, it's clear that they did not want her charged. They wanted her to be the President of the United States. They really, really didn't want Donald Trump to be the President of the United States, and they concede throughout these texts that they did things differently in this investigation from any other investigation that they were part of.
So what I don't understand is even if you're watching this at home and you think, well, I wanted Hillary to win too, and I don't like Donald Trump too, shouldn't you be a little concerned, maybe actually terrified, that FBI agents conducting a criminal investigation into a politician were worried about the political elements of the investigation? That's not supposed to happen,
You may remember, as I do, Jim Comey telling us that the FBI doesn't give a whit about politics. He loved to tell us how apolitical the Bureau was. And here we have these texts. Of course, our friends on the left say, well, these are texts between two lovers. Yeah, that's right. You're much more likely to tell the truth when you don't think anybody else is watching. This, I think, is the unvarnished truth of how they viewed both her, him, and the investigation and how they wanted it to turn out. Keep in mind, Tucker, all of this was done before she was ever interviewed. So the fix was in, unfortunately, before they even interviewed the target of the investigation.
What does it tell you about what they saw in Hillary Clinton? They believed if she became president, she would punish our chief law enforcement agency for investigating her. What does that say about their view of her, or their understanding of her?
It's either that, or I think another reasonable construction could be that she would reward the DOJ, thinking it was more DOJ lawyers that concluded she should not be charged as opposed to the FBI. And that's actually how I read it, that she would give more credit to the Department of Justice. Keep in mind, it doesn't appear that anyone wanted her charged before they even knew what she was going to say. I read that to be, they were concerned DOJ would get the credit for taking care of her more than the Bureau would.
You've taken an enormous amount of abuse, as have your colleagues on the Intelligence Committee, as has this channel, for daring to report this news as if asking questions about the behavior of law enforcement officials is unpatriotic. How do you respond to that?
Tucker, there is no one in Congress who has more respect for law enforcement. I've spent 18 years working with them. It's the best 18 years of my professional life, and always will. I love law enforcement, which is why these text break my heart. The judge will give you the broadest leeway to begin and instruct every decision you make when you are biased to or against someone.
Right.
So when I see manifest...
Yeah, that one's down over there. We have to go to either, I don't know where you're at right now, but the one on Port Mary, or we can go to Brownlee and run over to Don and double check. Brownlee and Agnes, sir. Meet you there. License still suspended? Yeah, 1040. Jim, I guess the citation for the DWI, and I'll just impound the vehicle, and I'll run over there to Don, and I'll see. You just hold it for
70-10-4 out with Charlie, 330.
on the downside, the right-hand lane.
Gibbs? I guess Gibbs Street is that?
Delta 460.
Gibbs Street? No, I'll find out.
With the Harbor Bridge southbound.
Central Auto Supply?
Are we on the roadway?
Duncliffe Code is in a bad spot.
Duncliffe on the 23rd.
This call.
Delta 470, 10-4. Delta 310, you advised to clear and put you on Delta 380 park. In your hand.
We got 2 units that would need them. I need one at the top of the bridge, and then one down below him on the southbound side.
Delta 370, 10-4.
One coming up, and I'm on the downside.
340 and 370, they've had 2 females in the truck.
Wheel was flat. Stand by.
Delta 380, Delta 310, your clear for code. Same female.
Parking your car across.
Do you evacuate parking her vehicle across the street?
At the scene.
Wait for him to come out. But she's sitting there in her car now, just parked waiting.
10-4.
29, that's why we went back over there. And the mom finally opened the door and she let us go in, but she's hiding in there somewhere.
Yeah, that's all I'm going to
Yeah, so we're going to be watching for him.
Alameda, Ralston, 7 Mary, Davis, Victor, Davis, Delta 370. Go ahead and show you around with Delta 460 for that disturbance, 911 11th Street. The RP's now advising the females outside her vehicle, yelling at him and throwing rocks at his resident.
Off the second floor balcony, approximately 15 feet onto the grass.
Charlie units about to
It'll
arrive.
fill out their paperwork.
Yeah, Temple, they have plenty of Charlie units available.
People that are 5 non-reactive, here's positive for heavy DOH, about a pint of vodka. We have them fully mobilized, 6-foot spikeboard straps, headlock C-collars. We have bilateral IVs.
In the year that President Trump has been in office, immigration has defined his political platform, from the first day of his campaign to this week's government shutdown. And the numbers show that he has made some dramatic changes. Immigration arrests in the U.S. interior, meaning far from the border, went up 25% over this past year.
We wanted to understand what the giant, complicated immigration enforcement system looks like.
The really tough point to negotiate in here is going to be these family-based policies. Democrats would also like to apply to parents, to grandparents. That's a really big issue for the immigration activist community. And also the visa lottery program has just become a bit controversial because of remarks the president has made about the program and this debate over the merit of who gets to come in and who gets to call themselves American.
The White House plans to officially send this framework up on Monday. There's, of course, another deadline for a government shutdown just after that.
Always one right around the corner.
Is Congress going to pass something like this?
The two dates we're looking at are February 8th. That's when the Congress has to pass another stopgap measure to keep the government open. Democrats have shown they're willing to shut down the government over immigration. The question is, will they do it again? That does seem unlikely. The deadline that the White House has set is March 5th. That's when they call the end of the program, so that's the operating deadline for Republicans.
That's NPR's Susan Davis. Thanks, Sue.
You're welcome.
President Trump's immigration plan faces resistance from some conservatives in Congress. Earlier today, before the White House released details of their plan, I spoke with Republican Congressman Raul Labrador of Idaho. He helped found the House Freedom Caucus. That's one of the most conservative groups in Congress, and he's co-author of an immigration bill he would like the House to take up. It would offer a 3-year legal status for Dreamers that could be renewed over and over, but no explicit path to citizenship. I asked Congressman Labrador why he believes that's the way to go.
What my bill does exactly is it gives them a 3-year visa that can be renewed indefinitely, but it also allows them to participate in the existing pathway to citizenship. I just think it would be wrong for us to give them a special pathway to citizenship when there are millions and millions and millions of people that are waiting to do it the right way.
So you don't rule out that they could eventually become U.S. citizens?
No, if they get married to a U.S. citizen, if they get a job that requires a labor certification, if they can get in the back of the line of the existing pathway, they would be able to do that. But I think it's fundamentally unfair to give people that are here illegally a leg up over the people that are trying to do it the right way.
On the other hand, this would leave these young people in limbo. Not sure of their legal status. They would have to be renewing it every 3 years with it expiring. Tell me on why that's a good idea, a good plan.
The rest of their immigration system works. I was an immigration lawyer for 15 years. Yep. We have people who came to the United States legally who applied for different visas, like the H-1 visa or the B visa or any of the other visas that are available to people. And they did it the right way, and they were in limbo. So why should we as Americans give people that enter the country illegally, even if it wasn't through any fault of their own, if it was because of their parents, why should we give them an advantage over the people that are trying to follow the law? I think that's fundamentally unfair.
These are people who didn't make a choice, though, who were brought here as children.
It doesn't matter. Are we going to have a policy in the United States that if you come here as a child, you have a right to be in the United States? I think that would be the wrong policy for the United States to do.
One more piece that I want to ask you about, and that is the war. You have proposed spending more than the president's calling for. You proposed something in the neighborhood of $30 billion. He called last night for $25 billion. What would this money buy? I mean, as you envision it, what does the law need to do?
Remember, when you're talking about either the 25 or the 30, whatever the amount is, and I think that is negotiable, you're not just talking about a wall. You're talking about everything that Homeland Security has said they need to protect the border. So that includes new employees, that includes actual structures, that includes things that are not structures. We're not asking for a structure wall all the way across the border. There are areas where you're not going to be able. We're not. And if you look at the bill, you're actually letting Homeland Security determine what the needs of each sector are. Our goal is to ensure that we don't have another group of DACA children 10 years from now, 20 years from now. If we don't do the things that are necessary to stop and prevent illegal immigration from happening again, then we're going to have this discussion again in 10 or 20 years. You're going to have another 700 to 2 million children that have come into the United States illegally. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to close the loopholes that are in the law, the holes that are in the wall right now, that will prevent this from happening again. We're a welcoming nation, but you should be coming to the United States in the legal process.
Your bill faces a battle to be passed in the House, and I won't be telling you anything you don't know if I share that there's extreme skepticism that it or anything close to it will pass in the Senate. What are Democrats and members missing?
They're missing exactly the dynamics of the House of Representatives. In the House, we are willing to look at the DACA population. And think about this. When they say that Republicans haven't moved, I have people that are co-sponsors of my bill that a year ago were saying that they would never vote for any type of legalization of any person that's here undocumented. And now they're co-sponsoring my bill that is actually giving legal status to people that are here without documentation. Those people have moved quite a bit. The president has moved in some ways quite a bit. But what we have is Democrats still taking the same position that they were taking 8 years ago, that they were taking 6 years ago, that they were taking 4 years ago, and they're saying that they're not willing to negotiate. That to me is preposterous.
Congressman, thank you.
Thank you.
That's Republican Congressman Raul Labrador of Idaho.
Let me know when you're at the top, pal. I got almost nothing but static. I heard you all around the vehicle, but...
Now we have some surprising news about these critters. Mosquitoes. Scientists have found you can actually teach mosquitoes to avoid you. NPR's Michaeline Duclair explains.
Human skin is a cornucopia of fragrances. Jim Riffle at the University of Washington says we emit more than 200 odor chemicals from our skin. One common chemical actually smells quite nice.
It smells kind of like grassy and a little bit mushy to me.
Others, not so much.
They smell pretty funky.
Like an overripe blue cheese or a musty day scent. But mosquitoes don't care if you're stinky. They love human smells. Mosquitoes actually learn human odors and then seek them out. In fact, scientists think it's your unique mixture of odors that determines how many mosquito bites you get. Some people's perfume is just irresistible.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we found. Some people are super attractive, and some people are actually not attractive at all, and the mosquitoes will avoid them.
Now Ripple says he has come up with a way to teach mosquitoes to hate your smell so they leave you alone. Just wave your hands and arms all around the buggers. You don't even need to touch them. Ripple is found mosquitoes hate vibrations. It makes them feel uncomfortable. So when you swat them, the critters start to associate this uncomfortable feeling with your own unique odor.
Mosquitoes can learn whether or not you are trying to swat them. Then they will pretty much avoid you thereafter.
So swatting in a way puts up a shield around you, making you invisible. Kind of like the Romulan cloaking device in Star Trek.
The cloaking device is working perfectly, and the commander has informed me that even the Romulan sensors cannot track a vessel.
You can read all about this new cloaking device in the journal Current Biology. Martin Edwards, a biologist at Muhlenberg College, says the study was so convincing, he's changing how he acts towards mosquitoes.
Well, I'm certainly going to swat at mosquitoes more now than I did before, and I'm going to feel okay if I miss. Because I know that I've taught the mosquito something important.
But if the critter comes near Edwards, she could get bam, smashed. Michaeline Duclair, NPR News.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.
Last name is Guerrero. P-U-E-R-R-E-R-O. First name Samuel. 823 of 56. Rate is 1. Samuel, I show driver's license class 3, expired 2017. This city, eligible to time.
Dodge Charger, four-door black in color, outside Adán, Adam Houston, 629,
NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Mary Louise Kelly.
And I'm Ari Shapiro. President Trump is in Davos, Switzerland for the World Economic Forum, the annual gathering of the wealthy and the well-intentioned. The White House says Trump is there to persuade foreign business leaders to invest more in the United States. He'll also be pushing back against what he sees as unfair trading practices by other countries. As NPR's Scott Horsley reports, Trump's transactional approach to foreign policy was on display today as he met with other world leaders.
One of the president's first meetings in Davos was with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who Trump calls a personal friend. It's the first time the two have met since Trump recognized Jerusalem last month as the capital of Israel. Netanyahu praised that decision, as well as the U.S. plan to move its embassy to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv.
I want to say that this is a historic decision that will be forever etched in the hearts of our people for generations to come.
Elsewhere in the international community, Trump's move was widely condemned as premature and an impediment to the peace process between Israel and the Palestinians. But Trump insists his decision will actually help move that process forward.
The hardest subject they had to talk about was Jerusalem. We took Jerusalem off the table, so we don't have to talk about it anymore. They never got past Jerusalem.
In fact, the administration still says the final boundaries and status of Jerusalem are subject to negotiation. Palestinians regard East Jerusalem as the capital of their own future state. Palestinian leaders refused to meet with Vice President Pence this past week, a snub that Trump called disrespectful. His administration has already frozen some economic aid to the Palestinians, and today the president threatened to cut off more.
That money is on the table, and that money is not going to them unless they sit down and negotiate peace. Because I can tell you that Israel does want to make peace, and they're going to have to want to make peace too, or we're going to have nothing to do with it any longer.
Trump also met today with British Prime Minister Theresa May for what British newspapers were calling a clear-the-air session. The two leaders have squabbled in the past, but today they downplayed any friction in the transatlantic alliance.
Well, there's a little bit of a false rumor out there. I just wanted to correct it, frankly, because we have great respect for everything you're doing.
We continue to have that really special relationship between the UK and the United States.
With her country pulling out of the European Union, May is eager to strike a bilateral trade deal with the United States. Trump says he welcomes that. He prefers one-on-one trade negotiations to big multi-country deals. White House economic advisor Gary Cohn says Trump will discuss his trade philosophy in a speech here in Davos tomorrow.
We are very open to free, fair, reciprocal trade. If you treat us one way, we will treat you the same way. If you have no tariff, we will have no tariff. If you have tariffs, we should have a reciprocal tariff. It's hard to argue against that we should treat each other equally.
Cohn says Trump will also use his speech to encourage more of the movers and shakers here to invest in the United States and hire more American workers.
He is firmly committed to being the best salesperson the United States has to drive economic growth and drive a better quality of life for Americans.
Trump hosted a dinner tonight for more than a dozen European business executives, several of whom say they're already planning big new investments in the United States. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Davos, Switzerland.
Police and soldiers are guarding movie theaters in many parts of India today. This because a new Bollywood musical about a mythical queen has ignited a culture war. Violent protests have plagued and delayed the film, as NPR's Bilal Qureshi reports.
Padmavat is one of the most lavish Bollywood films ever made. It features the country's biggest movie star, Deepika Padukone.
And the character that I play is someone who historically, there's a certain section of India that worships her.
She is Padmavati, a 14th century queen from Rajasthan, who was first documented in the film by a Sufi Muslim writer. Today she's revered by certain Hindu groups because she burned herself alive in the face of a Muslim invasion to protect her kingdom's honor. But the movie was plagued from the beginning. Sets were vandalized. Director Sanjay Leela Bhansali was assaulted. Film journalist Asim Chabra says it was all because of a rumor that the movie featured a dream love scene between the Hindu queen and the Muslim invader.
The filmmakers from the very beginning have denied that there was no such thing. There was no dream sequence. There's not a single shot of them together. And yet the rumors refused to die down, and so the protest just continued and continued and continued.
But as the film's scheduled release last month drew closer, the protests further. The fight exploded into India's 24-hour news cycle.
No, you threatened to cut his second. Did they threaten to cut Bansali's neck off?
Journalist Asim Chabra says then it got even worse.
They were these political leaders, some actually belonging to the ruling political party, who went on television and threatened to behead the director, to cut off the actress's nose. It's been shocking.
All of this says a lot more about the Indian present than its 14th century past, says historian Sunil Kilnani, author of The Idea of India.
What you're seeing in India is the weaponization of history. That's to say, the use of historical figures, some who are mythic, some who actually existed but have now become sort of surrounded by myth. The use of them for present political purposes.
Kilnani says today those politics are fueled by Hindu nationalism, which is trying to rewrite India's multicultural past.
What's unique about India is that all of the world's great religions have at different times ruled and held political power: Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, Hinduism. But the current Hindu majoritarian imagination is very anxious and insecure about that. And so it wants to wipe out what is actually the historical truth of Indian history, which is this multiplicity.
As fringe groups claiming to represent Hindu honor called for an all-out ban of the movie, the studio delayed the release. And in an unprecedented move, the country's censor board assembled an outside panel to consider the sensitivities the movie had inflamed. The panel recommended multiple disclaimers and modifications. The movie's centerpiece sequence, showing the queen dancing with hundreds of handmaidens, has also changed, says journalist Asim Chabra.
When she dances, she's wearing a short blouse and apparently showing her midriff. And then the protest started that women of that time period never used to show any skin. So as part of the understanding of the censor board, the filmmakers, they've actually done some CGI work on Deepika Padukone's body where the skin has been totally covered up.
Throughout the controversy, India's ruling Hindu nationalist government has not stepped in. And historian Sunil Kilnani says that points to a larger issue than one Bollywood film.
I think the important thing to remember here is that the many other works which don't get this attention and which do get attention, whether it's writers in the Tamil language, Perumal Murugan, whether it's journalists in Bangalore who get killed for what they write. This is happening across the board, across India.
And violent protests against Padmavat have continued on opening day. Journalist Asim Chabra says he's nervous about his own neighborhood outside New Delhi.
It's not something that we can just say, oh, it'll pass. There are people out there who, they just don't want to be quiet. And none of them have seen the film. That's the unfortunate thing.
Those who have seen the film are already calling it a Bollywood classic, although maybe just a tad melodramatic. Bilal Qureshi, NPR News.
This is NPR News.
A woman files for protection from her violent boyfriend. She tells the police he has a gun, but when officers ask him about it,
Do you have any guns?
no. Okay, how police in Seattle are trying to keep guns out of the wrong hands. On the next morning edition.
Owner is Joshua Garza at 845 Irwin out of this city. And the insurance is showing to be confirmed.
Delta 340, we're on the main line.
Delta 340, temporary. 450 clear.
Adam Sparks 450, go ahead.
Location?
Negative. Yes, sir. Did you call me? Okay, yeah.
It's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Ari Shapiro.
And I'm Mary Louise Kelly. Next, a catchy song in Mexico has gone viral.
The story behind it reveals some challenges the country faces during this presidential campaign.
I think this is going to be one of the most problematic elections that we're going to live in Mexico.
That's ahead. First is headlines.
SPID eastbound. There at Staples.
Having shut down?
Yeah, they had it shut down last night from 9 on. I was wondering if you knew if they had it shut down again. It's okay. Just expiring. I'm on my way home. And I was just trying to put the main station. I was just expiring. Don't worry about it. I'll cross that bridge when I get there.
Okay.
Thank you.
I did get a 27 return for a Edward Ray Russell, date of birth 7/17/1983. ID only, expired 2017. The city not in this world time.
19. Go to Adam 450 to continue.
19 Coleman, Henry Tom North.
450 on street clear. 19 Coleman, 10 4.
You started engine 4.
10 4, engine 1. 10 4.
Charles Ray Dallas, 10 4. Sorry, Charlie 340.
Charlie 320.
Charlie 375 for a Airco. Go foil control now.
10 4.
North Water, the Hotel Corpus Christi. 601 North Water, the Hotel Corpus Christi. Clear a mail at the location. Been going to the trash cans in the lobby. Been asked to leave older Hispanic male or Filipino male, dark blue hoodie, light blue sweatpants. Casa Comia.
I guess I sent you a message on your MPC. You look at that before you head to the district. Yeah, this one. Let's go out there right now.
Difficulty breathing. 5009 Grafford Place. 5009 Grafford. The 69-year-old female purchased difficulty breathing. Cottonwood. Female with breathing on the line.
Been asked to leave. Older Hispanic or Filipino male.
Charlie 410, about to log in the computer room for Alpine route.
Did you copy your call? 10-4. Adam 430, I'm showing you around with Adam 450 for that assault in progress. Contact for Valerie, assaulted by a male Jose. Possibly intoxicated. Frank Tom 5015, Leopard McKinsey. That's pushing the RP. 20.6, 10-4.
CIP, showing you has a driver's license, class C, expires 20.
One they did get was the one with the warrant number 1400260 is the one for disregard official traffic control device. That's the one they did get. They didn't get the other two.
440, Adam 450, engine 1.
Therefore, engine 1 copy.
Adam 440, location, male and female, sleeve green shirt and a baseball cap.
Work up first. 431. This is a homeless guy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Engine on the urine readable. There she waved at me and smiled. Complaining of head pain. We've got no heart rate and blood pressure, everything's good to go. But he's still saying his head hurts. Medic 14, code 3, to Bay Area, my way to
We're going around 2744 South Staples, the Little Caesars at Staples in Texas. 2744 South Staples, the Little Caesars at Staples in Texas. The point of alarm is the front entry door. You're still on Mobile 1. Delta 470, 10-4, Delta 3 radio, shake clear.
No.
381 showing negative 29 for James and the people getting Charlie 450.
No, doctor reporting at this time. Patient was found unresponsive on scene in an apartment complex parking lot. We did notice pinpoint pupils. We've just given some Narcan right now, and it looks like he may be coming around, so it might be an opioid overdose. Current vital signs of blood pressure 84/49. We got a heart rate of 92, finger stick of 90, temperature of 100.1. Respirations were about 16 on scene. We're still trying to get an O2 sanity clicker facility. Will be about 4 minutes.
Looks like John Nora King, Boy Young, 01. On his sexual offender TPOC only is showing incarcerated. 047.
Code 1 with a 69-year-old female, Dr. Morris having micrography less than 1 at 2137. Airport check. Charlie 450. I'm sure the temporary tag comes back to license 92-5772. Repeat 92-5772.
Occupants moved out in the white brown shirt with blonde hair, green shirt, blue jeans, and one of the house going front yard. Lights are on.
Negative 29. I'm sorry. Temperature is 100.9. She's using IV access. Currently have her position of comfort. ETA to facility is about 5 to 7 minutes.
010 East Copley North South. Boulevard Smart. U.S. Panhandler, white male, camo jacket.
Adam 430, you came in with very low volume and static. You were unreasonable.
Or he's going to be carrying a backpack and is also a doctor.
9014 arriving in Bay Area, mileage 3.6.
470 for the service in progress. 121 North Shoreline, the Waterbury at Shoreline. 121 North Shoreline, the Waterbury at Shoreline. It's going to be a Hispanic male, dark hoodie, guitar, he's using the lead. It's going to be in the upstairs part of the restaurant.
That's 430, I'll be clear on it that way. Set for SBID in Old Brunswick. Bravo 460, go ahead. Yeah, find
Place of South Alameda, Place of South Alameda. Coming in text to 911. Cheyenne route, right, Charlie, 45, 46, 49. I think that by then he's in an apartment that's not his. Believe he's being set up. Someone's shining light through the window.
Not going to be the regular
at the Bay Tree apartment. Trying to get an exact location. A PI subject. 3614 Capri Drive, 3614 Capri Drive. Patrick hit his email that's at the door.
That for your subject trace are triple.
The suspect vehicle is going to be a black or a blue minivan.
It wasn't issued a warning like a paper copy like we usually do. We had the orange no trespassing signs posted there. It's a little bit different. Probably correction 310.
I'm going to reroute.
Charlotte 460 traffic.
7013.
Calling Wedgwood, David, Lincoln, 6069.
Looks like it's going to be suicide. Conscious and breathing towards the water. Delta 430 comes in.
440.
left in the beginning?
Yeah, they just wanted to leave, right? I mean, they're here at the minute doing things.
Yeah, they just wanted out of there for now. They were doing them already by themselves.
Backing up ID 1794. It's going to be at Brewster's.
Alright. We're going into his girlfriend's house, and I guess, yeah, I think he's hitting her over there now. He drives down Harley, he always parks down the street and walks down her house.
Oh, okay, that's going to be the Calaveras dude?
Yeah, definitely. Calaveras guy.
He has the license to carry also.
Backing up ID 1794 at requesting a unit.
Okay, simple. I'll be around there.
Ocean Drive, 4330 Temple Ocean Drive, 2410. Delta 360, I'll show you en route also until they advise.
Okay, he's out. If he's on the spot, you're not going to find him.
Yeah, no, he does that all the time. He skips down.
Delta 310.
That's wrong. If I have something, I'm going to go after this. Yeah, I'm going to go after the other one.
Latest update to advise, it's going to be 4333 Ocean.
Charlie, unfortunately, arriving. Any more calls on this?
Heads up, the crane just broke down, and they have another crane on the way.
Simple.
Destruction in progress, 4315 Carroll Lane, 4315 Carroll Lane, with the Samuel Place apartment 129. Some mail that just broke the RP's window. I don't know where the mail is at now. It's a Hispanic male with a brown shirt. It's going to be intoxicated. Location?
2700 Mary.
2700 Mary, I'm going to call Nora 8885. Second the area. What's 421
46, left 160, maintain 1000. Good time. All established mile approach course. Cleared RNF 13 left. Thank you. Have a good night.
Wolves from the yard or out running around loose.
Simple. Go ahead with the phone number. Search town.
And I'm going to get this out of Ivy. 6316.
56316.
I can show you in
Yeah, let her know that
Bad on the good RNF 13 left for pit stop.
wolves running loose, and she needs to come out and detain it, otherwise animal control can take it.
Delta 340 line. Delta 340 your line. Delta 310 your line.
Charging
We
people,
have another
so
call
they
from
need
an
to do something with
RP,
it.
advising that no one's overdosing, giving us an address that he is
White Bell.
going to be at 3798 La Paz Drive. Are you making contact with anybody?
I'm on Hammond Circle now. I can go to the bar.
That's where it's at. Mark with the
Imagine that. No one's taking any drugs.
Okay.
I'll show you Route 2 from La Paz. Address
709 Cimarron Boulevard, Garden Estates Retirement Home. 2709 Cimarron Boulevard, Garden Estates Retirement Home.
The RP is going to be cold.
Stolen from 860 Cantwell on January 3rd. Authority at 310 at 2144.
Look up fire dispatch at 239.
Alright, let me dig a little bit.
The original call came in from a Kelsey
Medical State 2709
with that address of 7013 Hannah.
2709 Cimarron Boulevard, Garden Estates Retirement Home.
Just called the call taker. They're advising that originally the RP was calling about cold overdose. Now cold calling back advising that he's not overdosing, but he's not at that location.
Case number 0153. 0153.
This boy doesn't verify.
Yes, sir.
420 for a disturbance in progress. 3601 Victory Drive. 3601 Victory Drive.
Yeah. But I got a hold of the
there.
people that own it. He's back
RP is advising he's going through withdrawals from cocaine. He pushed the container against the wall. Coming
with a female that's arguing. The male subject in the background. Cops are updating.
We'll have you contact the owner of the dog's back inside the fence. You can show me clear.
10-4. 420, 10-4. 420, 10-4. Delta 410, 10-4.
Okay, this happened at the 470, the Valero there?
10-4.
Okay, I saw that Kia Forte there with that paper tag. There was two dancers in it.
I'm showing him to be a white Hispanic.
Did you mention that?
4 feet 5, 60 pounds.
Yeah, when we're going to that call next door at the plaza.
I'm doing good. Thank you for your patience.
That Forte was parked all the way in, and there was two dancers. They were in the car, and then they went inside the door to the restaurant.
Show that his hair looks like a small afro. He wears an ankle monitor. Any other identifying characteristics?
Two really raunchy-looking dancers, but they were definitely dancers.
I'll enter him into the system, and I'll send my
other than a UCMV. Delta 346 sub 1 and engine 1 out of service. That 1.
Talking, breathing, chest pain. Work out EMS 1 at 254. 9374, rescue 3 straight, clear in quarters.
I'll just add a quick 5-9.
211 180 10 352.
You for the 795, thank you. He was on supply. He didn't know what area of town he was in. He said he never saw anything. He just heard. He said he had his headphones, like his earbuds in on his phone, listening to music, and he was looking at his phone and heard a bang and then like a roar, like a car driving off, but he didn't see anything. Nobody ever wants to know this shit. Did he fill out an affidavit saying that? All that? What's that? I don't know anything about that.
ID 12196.
Yeah, he's supposed to have to fill out an affidavit saying that their car was stolen. So am I. Do they need us on code?
Yeah, we can down 955174 at the Lydia Dodge.
Oh, yeah, that's another one where... So that's one where 99558 that. He wakes up stiff in the morning and not breathing.
2015 Chrysler 200 4-door. Brown and colored. Here's John Michael.
And you know, you spoke to him and what he told you. You don't know where he's at, but yeah, I would write that. Why you were dispatched out there, and then what transpired there, and then you spoke to him. Whatever. What you done with it? Try to complete together. Good to see you. W2, right?
Charlie 450, your system is 19-0019. 2233 Waldron Road, 233 Waldron Road, Patrol 4 at...
A team of archaeologists from Israel has discovered the oldest known fossil of a modern human outside of Africa. As NPR's Ritu Chatterjee reports, the discovery suggests that the first humans left Africa much earlier than previously believed.
The archaeologists found the slopes of Mount Sinai as well as West Coast. They were digging and caved.
The cave is one of the series of prehistoric caves.
Nina Weinstein-Evron is at the University of Haifa, and she led the study. She says the cave had been occupied over 100,000 years ago. Among stone tools and animal bones, she and her team also found a single piece of a fossilized skull. It was the upper left jawbone, with all the teeth intact. Weinstein-Evron says it looked remarkably similar to present-day humans.
It looks quite modern from the start.
So modern as in modern human, like as in Homo sapiens?
It's really like us. I don't see you, but it's like you and me.
A detailed analysis confirmed that the fossil belongs to our species. Now, scientists had found fossils of humans in other caves on Mount Carmel before, but this one is about 180,000 years old. That's 60,000 years older than any other modern human fossil outside of Africa. Anthropologist Israel Hershkovitz of Tel Aviv University says it was a real surprise. Other scientists are excited about the new study, which was published today in the journal Science. Michael Passalia, who wasn't involved in the study, is at the Max Planck Institute for the Science of Human History.
This is an outstanding discovery. It is a big deal, and I was very surprised that this find came out of nowhere.
Now, one school of thought was that humans left Africa all at once in a short period of time. Passalia, the new findings suggest that our journey out of that continent was more complicated.
It suggests and supports a model where there were multiple waves of Homo sapiens out of Africa, starting at a very early point.
Paleoanthropologist Rick Potts of the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History says it makes sense. He says groups of humans were just exploring, looking over the next hill and down the next valley.
And they kept going. They didn't have maps. They didn't know whether they were in Africa or wherever. They were just simply following where perhaps the game was good, food resources were good for eating, and there was water.
Most of these groups eventually died out, he says, including the ones found in this cave. Genetic evidence suggests that it was only about 60,000 years ago that a group of humans left Africa and eventually succeeded in spreading across the globe. Ritu Chatterjee, NPR News.
Now to Mexico, and a song that has gone viral. It's a campaign spot for a political party featuring a baby-faced indigenous boy joyfully belting out upbeat lyrics over and over and over. The video has been viewed more than 11 million times on YouTube. But opposition parties and child protection groups are crying foul, accusing politicians of exploiting Mexico's indigenous people. NPR's Carrie Kahn reports this is the latest chapter in an electoral season that's on track to be one of the most contentious in recent.
It's really a catchy tune. Not much in the lyrics department. There's one line about the future being in your hands with a vote for the orange-colored Citizens Movement Party, and a lot of this. 9-year-old Nuawi Lopez, in the traditional dress of his Huichol tribe, belts out the tune with the highlands of his native Jalisco state in the background. Reached by phone, Lopez says he loves to sing and is excited about his newfound fame. But not everyone is. Children's rights groups say the boy is being exploited for political means. And the Morena Party, whose candidate is leading polls in this summer's presidential race, called on election regulators to pull the song from the airwaves, saying it endangers the higher interest of childhood. Uawi's father, Jose Lopez Robles, says those denouncing him are hypocrites.
¿Por qué se preocupa una persona, un niño que demuestra su talento? ¿Y por qué no se preocupan de los niños que están en la calle?
Why are they so worried about a child who is showing off his talent, and yet they aren't worried about all the children who live in the streets, without a mother or father who cares for them? Why?
Mexico's National Electoral Institute sided with Uawi's father, ruling the boy had parental permission to appear in the ads. But Juan Martín Pérez Garcia, who heads the Network for the Rights of Children in Mexico, insists Uawi is being treated like a mascot by the political party.
No ha realizado ninguna propuesta para atender a los indígenas. No ha sido partícipe de ninguna iniciativa.
They have not put forth any proposals to attend to the problems facing indigenous people. They haven't participated in any initiatives to protect children's rights. It's clear that all they are doing is using this boy unethically.
Perez says the National Electoral Institute's ruling was a narrow and administrative interpretation of the law, and it has failed its responsibilities to ensure a fair and honest election. This isn't the first nor the last criticism electoral regulators will receive before voters go to the polls on July 1st.
I think this is going to be one of the most problematic elections that we're going to lose in Mexico.
Reached by Skype, Jesus Cantu Escalante is a political scientist at the Tecnologico de Monterrey University. He says public confidence in election regulators has dropped dramatically as they failed to curb unethical and outright illegal practices. He says everything from flaunting spending limits to vote buying.
They feel empowerment and they are going to push the limits to the extreme, and even in some cases they are going to go beyond that to win in that way the election.
Cantu points to recent local elections as cause for concern. In 2 state governors' races, regulators found huge amounts of unregulated money was spent. So much in one state, regulators ruled the vote should be annulled. But Mexico's highest electoral court, reportedly packed with the current president's party appointees, rejected the findings twice. Kenneth Green, who studies Mexican elections at the University of Texas at Austin, says recent budget cuts to the Electoral Institute is cause for concern, and he says over Skype, so is the firing of an electoral crimes prosecutor who is investigating President Peña Nieto's previous campaign funding practices.
The judicial system's ability to investigate and sanction electoral malfeasance has been weakened.
There's still a little more than 6 months until voters go to the polls. But Luis Alberto Chalico, a software engineer waiting by a Mexico City metro stop, says he's not looking forward to them. Recent polls show more than a quarter of likely voters are undecided. There aren't that many good candidates to choose from, he says. Guess it will come down to who's the least worst. Terry Khan, NPR News, Mexico City.
With deflection in 1 and ABL. Also, we got elevation in 906 radio check. About 2 minutes.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.
Delivered a baby on January 20th, earlier this week. 10 for 10.
This is a second call. Female advising that the male is back. Could be wearing a flannel shirt, blue jeans.
Ward number 2 over 101. Patient has a heart rate of 140, BP 120, restoration at 18, pulse is 10 at 99% over there. Pulse oxygen 105. She's got a temp of 98.1 degrees Fahrenheit. She is warm to the charge. We've also got an IV established and EKG showed a normal sinus rhythm. RCC 5 minutes.
The Hispanic male with long hair, gray sweater, short. You think he delivered? Coming back to the location, sitting on the porch.
Yes, ma'am. She delivered on January 20th. Got sent home with the baby on the 24th. And she didn't have a history of preeclampsia during her pregnancy. Mitigate copy out. Yeah, I'll take half of that. Henry John Zebra 0858. Do you want to?
7.5.
Walter. Before the line, white motorhome blocking road. Creek, a call advised that the mother, father, mother, female is bleeding. Also being updated. Adam 3 or Adam 4.
I want to start again. We're getting another call. 093. Regular the male threatening to shoot with a gun. 2018. Looks like it's a disabled veteran. Plate 2009 white Chrysler 4-door. It's going to be by building 6, apartment 215. There was no gun display. Armando Brambilla. Address 4406 Clearport, the city.
14,600 northwest, 10-4.
Ellie, we've been following the story of one immigrant in the Pacific Northwest who spent half a year in detention. Next, we'll tell you what happened to him and his family.
Later, members of the GOP go after the FBI with talk of secret societies and missing text messages.
Agents are not really able to defend themselves in the political context.
And California's longest-serving governor delivers his 16th and final State of the State address.
Our world, our way of life, our system of governance, all are at immediate and genuine risk.
First, these headlines.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Shay Stevens. The New York Times is reporting that President Trump ordered the firing of Special Counsel Robert Mueller last June, but changed his mind when the White House counsel refused and threatened to resign. NPR News cannot confirm the Times report, which comes a day after Trump said he'd gladly speak with Mueller under oath. Mueller is investigating Russian meddling in the 2016 election and possible ties to the Trump campaign. The Trump administration is backing an eventual path to citizenship for almost 2 million people brought to the U.S. illegally as children. NPR's Scott Detrow says the new proposal also calls for some hardline changes to legal immigration.
The administration wants a 10 to 12-year path to citizenship for the roughly 700,000 people in the expiring Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. President Trump also wants to see that for people eligible for DACA but not in it, a combined total of about 1.8 million people. The White House also wants $25 billion for border security, including wall construction, and it's also calling for a limit on family priorities in legal immigration to parents and minor children, as well as an end to the visa lottery program. Of course, this is all in a memo written by White House staffers, and President Trump regularly undercuts such things in his tweets or public comments. Scott Detrow, NPR News, Washington.
Speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos, President Trump says U.S. aid to the Palestinians is on the table and must be linked to negotiations with Israel. Palestinian diplomat Syed Erekat says the money is not a donation and that Trump's approach to the Mideast peace process won't work.
I don't think that the money can buy people's dignity and people's aspirations and people's future outlook. And for us as Palestinians, it's meaningless to have a Palestinian state without Jerusalem as its capital.
Trump angered the Palestinians last month by recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. A new political action committee is supporting veterans seeking public office, Democrats and Republicans alike. As NPR's Phil Lawrence reports, the Super PAC has made its first 9 endorsements.
The Super PAC with honor will offer funding and expertise to candidates who are military veterans and who will sign a code of conduct that involves collaborating across party lines and disavowing negative and misleading campaign advertisements. Former Marine Ry Barcott is co-founder of the organization.
Americans overwhelmingly want leaders who will put their country before party, who can help fix our broken, hyper-polarized politics.
Barcott says the number of veterans in Congress is at a historic low, and he hopes vets will be better at finding common ground. The PAC has endorsed 5 Republicans and 4 Democrats so far, running for Congress in November. Phil Lawrence, NPR News.
And Wall Street stocks closed mixed. The Dow rose 140 points. This is NPR News. U.S. Congressman Pat Meehan says he will not seek re-election, a decision that follows allegations that he used taxpayer money to settle a former aide's sexual harassment complaint. The 62-year-old Pennsylvania Republican is the subject of an ethics committee probe and lost his seat on that panel, which investigates misconduct by lawmakers. Meehan says he never saw a romantic relationship with his accuser, but had thought of her as a soulmate. Most of the evacuees from Montecito, California, are still awaiting the all-clear, weeks after deadly flash flooding. As KPCC's Cody Lynn Hurdy's reports, 2 residents are still missing from the disaster.
21 people have been confirmed dead and more than 100 homes destroyed. And while 1,600 people have been allowed back home, not so thousands of others. That's because many of the town's narrow streets are still clogged with bulldozers and utility trucks trying to remove the mud and boulders and rebuilding drainage pipes and power lines. Montecito was hit by flash floods January 9th, following a huge wildfire that consumed much of the vegetation needed to prevent mudslides. Authorities now say it could take until the end of the month before many will be allowed back home. For NPR News, I'm Hetty Lynn Hurdy.
South Korea's president has convened an emergency meeting to discuss a deadly hospital fire in the southern city of Manuel. Local media reports say at least 31 people were killed in the blaze, which reportedly began in the emergency room of a facility that also serves as a nursing home. This is NPR News in Washington.
Support for NPR comes from Inada, creators of the Japanese-made Dreamwave massage chair, with shiatsu point detection and 16 pre-programmed massages, including morning and nighttime sessions. Retail dealers nationwide. More at dreamwavechair.com.
This is All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Ari Shapiro.
And I'm Mary Louise Kelly. In the year that President Trump has been in office, immigration has defined his political platform, from the first day of his campaign to this week's government shutdown. And the numbers show that he has made some dramatic changes. Immigration arrests in the U.S. interior, meaning far from the border, went up 25% over this past year.
We wanted to understand what the giant, complicated immigration enforcement system looks like to one family caught in the middle of it. So we've spent months reporting this story, gathering documents, sending producers to be there for all the unexpected twists and reversals, and we've waited to tell you this story until we knew how it ended. It's a bright September day in the Pacific Northwest. We're in the backyard of this single-story home tossing a squeaky toy, a slobbery pit bull named Royce. That's his real name. The family asked us to change some other name and keep certain details vague because of their legal status. When you walk through the front door, the first thing you see is a wedding photo, a teenage bride and groom in Mexico. We're going to call them Manuel and V.
And on the frame with the photos from your wedding, it says "Together Forever."
In our hearts, yes. Though we're not together in person right now, in our hearts we are. When you truly love someone, there are no barriers.
By now you might have guessed, Manuel is in immigration detention. We've watched his absence ripple through his family and community in ways that continue today. The first time we meet the family in September, Manuel has already been locked up for 5 months. His boys range from 19 to 8 years old. The oldest has temporary protection under the program called DACA. He was brought over as an infant. The younger 3 are U.S. citizens. Alex looks younger than his 14 years. He's enthusiastic, with big appetites and big emotions. He's been learning the accordion.
What song is that?
It's one of my dad's favorite songs.
Oh, what's it called?
It's called La Portamenta.
What does that mean?
The Dark Door. It's a song about relating to my parents' story. A guy fell in love with a girl, but their parents wouldn't let her be with him. So it's about a door that was just blocking their lawns and stuff.
Here's how that relates to his parents' story. Manuel and V were born in Sinaloa, Mexico. They went to elementary school together. When they started dating as teenagers, V's family objected because Manuel's family was poor. Her relatives had connections to the Sinaloa drug cartel, and they tried to kill Manuel. Over a couple years, they beat him up, put a gun to his head, and tried to run him over with a car. That's all according to his testimony in immigration court. Those death threats will turn out to be important later in the story. In 1998, he crossed the border and got caught in the U.S. He could have asked for asylum, but he was 19. He didn't understand immigration law. So ICE issued a deportation order, one that still stands today, and he was sent back to Mexico. 3 days later, he crossed into the U.S. again, and he's been quietly flying under the radar ever since, working and raising a family, until one day last April. At 5:30 in the morning, a local police officer came to Manuel's house with immigration agents. We spoke to Manuel on a crackly phone line from the Northwest Detention Center just south of Seattle.
And the official said, okay, turn him around and arrest him. And I asked him why. I understand a little bit of English. And the official said in Spanish, okay, you have a deportation order from 1998.
The cop said the officers came to investigate a report that Manuel was driving a stolen car. When Manuel told them he owned the car, the immigration agents demanded his citizenship papers. Then they put Manuel in handcuffs. Incidentally, police could not produce any report about that stolen car.
I asked, please, let me say goodbye to my wife. And the other official in Spanish said, okay, go ahead, say goodbye. They took me towards her. And he let me say goodbye.
I'm on post at gate 41 Tango.
But I haven't seen her since.
He never got to say goodbye to his kids. 14-year-old Alex remembers that he went to sleep excited the night before. His first football game was the next day. The morning of the game, he woke up to the sound of his mother screaming, and his father was gone.
First they took him, my days went back home.
Yeah.
They didn't let me put as much in my grades because of my grades.
Your grades went down, and so they wouldn't let you play as much. Yeah.
In the 5 months that Manuel has been locked up, the family has had to change all their routines. The oldest son dropped out of college. There was no money for tuition, and he needed to support the family. So now he's working as a firefighter. At the same time, he doesn't know what his own future will be. He has temporary permission to stay in the country under DACA. The fight over renewing that program is part of what led to this week's government shutdown. In the detention center, Manuel feels helpless, unable to provide for his family or comfort his children. He tries to talk to them on the phone every night.
They ask me when I'm going to come back. It's very sad. Very sad.
What do you tell them when they ask that question?
I tell them they have to put a lot of effort in school. Because they don't have to pay for my mistakes. They don't have to pay for something that I did.
We got his immigration and customs enforcement file, and since his illegal border crossing nearly 20 years ago, Manuel has not been charged with any crimes. He had 3 jobs to support his family: restaurant work and cleaning. The detention center where he's staying is supposed to be for holding people, not punishing them. But to Manuel, the place feels punishing. When he was picked up in April, 750 people were on hunger strike, protesting the conditions at the Northwest Detention Center. Now in September, ask what it's like inside.
Bathrooms are horrible and in really bad shape, and the food is also really awful. Sometimes I've seen animals in our food, people's hair in the food. It's awful. A lot of people get sick here because of the food.
The company Geo Group, which operates the detention center, told us they strongly deny these allegations. Every time I call Manuel, he says he's hopeful and confident that he'll be reunited with his family. His optimism gets tested every time one of his friends in detention gets deported. Many of them have cases just like his.
One of them was just deported 2 weeks ago. That goodbye was the hardest for him, because he also has his family here.
And so when you saw him leave, when he was deported, you must have thought that could be me.
Exactly.
President Trump has promised to put more people in immigration detention, and that means expanding ICE priorities to go after people who weren't targets before. The Department of Homeland Security asked Congress for money for 17,000 new beds. That's a 1/3 increase. Under President Trump, ICE agents got a memo that, quote, officers will take enforcement action against all removable aliens encountered in the course of their duties. The man who wrote that memo is Matt Albence. He's the Director of Enforcement and Removal Operations at ICE. I sat down with Albence at his office in Washington, D.C. He's been at the agency for 6 years. And as he sees it, officers have their hands tied under the Obama administration.
The laws that Congress has passed and that our officers are sworn to uphold, we are now executing them faithfully across the board.
He told me about 90% of the people ICE arrests have a prior run-in with the courts. But that 90% includes Manuel, because he had a deportation order for crossing the border about 20 years ago.
If somebody listening to this interview crossed the border illegally a number of years ago and has tried to be
as good an American without being an American as they can be in the years since then. What's your advice to them?
If they're here unlawfully and they have a form of or a process through which they can acquire legal status to a family member, to a business, whatever the case may be, then they should avail themselves of that opportunity.
And if not?
And if not, then they should realize that they run the risk of being arrested, being placed in removal proceedings, and ultimately, at the decision of a judge, being deported at the end of those proceedings.
So do you have any advice for somebody who realizes they're at risk of that?
My advice would be to anybody that's in violation of the law. Stop violating the law.
Does that mean self-deportation?
It's certainly an option.
It's not just policymakers in the Trump administration who feel this way. Just down the block from Manuel and V's home in the Pacific Northwest, we stop by a yard sale and talk to some of the people looking for used clothes and furniture. It's a crisp afternoon, and lawns are scattered with fallen leaves.
Another card to give to your friend.
This is a working-class community, where the population is overwhelmingly white. Mark Height tells me he's glad to see ICE enforcing the immigration laws.
Change the law if they want to come in without legalization. But if it's illegal, it's illegal. We're a country of laws. It ain't right for them to get away with the law if I can't go rob a bank.
So the story that we're reporting is about a guy who came here illegally 20 years ago.
Why don't you go down and get papers now and get signed in?
There's no program to do that.
Oh, yeah, there is. Yes, there is. You can go down and get immigration papers and do it like everybody else does across the country.
So now he's got 4 kids here. 3 of them are U.S. citizens. He's been working 3 jobs. He's not been accused of any crime in the last 20 years, but he's being deported.
You should have done it the legal way, and then you wouldn't be getting deported. See, that's a bad thing. It's a law. It ain't my choice or your choice. It's a law.
At last, in mid-September, Manuel's court date arrives. He's been locked up nearly half a year. If he loses today, the next time he leaves the detention center could be with a one-way ticket to Mexico. We'll pick up the story with what happened in that courtroom after a short break.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.
John R. Roberts, 7. You're welcome. Coming up to Moore Avenue. And then we'll just tell them my name following. Okay, what time are Second, that was Ocean and Air. What is the first digit of the plate? 14, 10 from New York. Charles, 0670. 10-1, Charles, 0670. 301 radio check, New York. First name is Melissa, today. Adam 430. Location? And your phone, look into John Noah Robert 7883. John Noah Robert 7833. Yes, ma'am. John Noah Robert 7833. I told you on the way. That's fine. Thank you, ma'am. Adam 311, 10-4. Adam 410, always take American than one.
In my information. 10-4, both have a good day. And a non-aggravated robbery, 2703 Marguerite. A white male, medium build, copy. Dark colored top, no hair. Last seen walking towards 27th Avenue. Patrol 1 2 and 20.
5 May 2019.
Have a good day. Charlie 304. Charlie 305 and round
For 5314 McCall, RTA, 1500, working out supervisor channel, RTA supervisor.
Drug overdose. Charlie 430, 10 4. Charlie 430, Trace there. What is your rating?
I guess online, or I don't know. And the call reads, the group is getting bigger, and the people seeing the pictures. They're adults, I would assume. Can you think of a charge for that?
I thought there was like a new law not too long ago that came out about posting things like that. And I had to look at the book.
Still there?
We don't have to do that. We'll figure it out. I just thought about it. Kids, oh yeah. But
Following is for information only. The following is for information only.
Attention all import units, the following is an EBS test time communications. This is only intent. Repeating, the following is an EBS test time communications. This is only intent.
Clear frequency for emergency message. Clear frequency for emergency message.
area also.
Alert to commercial. Alert to commercial. General aviation. Alert to general aviation. Alert 3. Alert 3. Alert 3. Flex 2. Flex 2. Flex 2. Flex 3. Flex 3. Flex 3.
Flex 4. 51 base.
Code blue. Code blue. Code blue.
Thank you, Route 1. Appreciate it. Yeah, pending calls, disturbance in progress, drive-by not in progress, and suspicious person. There's no 20.
Double.
This restriction A, Adam, Class B, Charles, 2021, show clear.
Also, I'll be back in route 10-1, 3, clear. Show yourself. Which subject is it? Or a couple of those with that last name?
Did that other unit start?
So I'm gonna go look at it right now.
10-4, give it to Vanessa to start, but if not, I'll just give it to
I have, I was just doing something else right now, because right now I took off and I had to, but I'm just gonna show Erica a quick route on that route that she's doing, and I'm gonna head right back.
There'll probably be another week or so down at the dealer. 1023 to transit radio check.
The third one. Fast 000 3525. Okay, I'll have
What were the last two characters?
Alright. Short. 55-year-old female. Heart rate and blood pressure low. Constant breathing. One of the residents of physical security. I'll strike you. On the 5. 10-4, I'll show you working off Friday special for the 1. Looks like the south side.
Record driver is advising that he's on via. He's close by. Or firefighter back. Quarters will not be going back out till 22.
Not quite yet. Go right.
Do you want that Adam unit about still, or do you want to clear?
Yeah. We're actually at the 12 stations focused on.
Adam 130, actually continuing. The record drivers are ready.
226.
Chancellor Joseph Jones.
I got a private or
10-4, thank you. The supervisor's on route. I couldn't get into the yard, but I found a side gate that didn't have a lock on it. Walked along there.
And then I go to the bathroom.
One apartment, the white Acura, parked halfway in the head. 2023. Supervisor 2A, I really need you to put someone on a private.
Location, I think it's 15 at 16. And you got located for 3
right on around. Go to
They're not going to be able to collect the money.
2023. Supervisor 2A.
Once you go ahead and send it through, he'll be my next pickup after I drop off it.
Yeah, you're already there. Just give me your time. I'm here.
Okay. Have anyone else? Gloria or
705 to 710. I'll put it in the line out.
No, that was the only reason why I asked because I was in Melba and it didn't make no sense. So, but thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hey, George, there's
10-4. I appreciate you. Route 51 base.
2 base, Rosado Rodriguez and George Dominguez, Staples Way.
Off of by the road.
41.
51 base. Armando Sanchez, Staples Way. 956, keep 4 call, keep 5. Put in my route base after before the
Thank you for your help. I appreciate it.
no problem. I'm out there.
George Dominguez, please. 11, did you say George Dominguez pay both ways?
Track
10-4 and Rosado Rodriguez. It's been advised they don't have anybody on yet. Thank you.
Adam 1.
Anybody going to be in the Rocktown area right now? I have Maria
Delta 1.
Munoz. Yes, the
Special vehicle pending and on Patrol 1 and then Patrol 2 has a system pending.
Drop off on Staples. I can pick her up. I'll put her right there.
Show me clear my part and put me on the suspicious vehicle on our side.
Felicia Suarez. Put her where? Under Kirkwood?
Both go to 2020.
Or did you say y'all's help? I'm learning. Sorry.
Okay, so I punched out for an emergency. The last position we had the OCU on was 21 Wildcat, 21 Wildcat northbound in Florida. At 713.
I'm sorry, that was accidental.
2162, 10-4, Delta 1, 10-4, accidental.
902,
Go on red here and Congressional Naval Arts at nighttime turn. Green.
5162's declared emergency is accidental 714.
Jam. Yeah, I went and saved Buckle.
Square apartment. And also advising Maria Semeno, she paid round trip.
Your truck?
Adam 120. Looking for a suspicious vehicle call. It occurred near the airport. It looks like it's going to be a Buick, a blue Buick that was tried running the reporting party off the highway.
What about? activity at the IHOP at Springfield Silverberry. No information at this time. Order from Fire Dispatcher 1015.
The Harbor Bridge northbound, starting. Carrier vehicle stopped going up the Harbor Bridge in the right lane. Someone there on one vehicle. Go for point.
Jimmy Mexico cancel.
344, 162, 162. Route 3. Yeah, above the 318 Charlie, 10-4. Route 15.
44, one subject or two subjects? 10-4, what was the description? Some hazard lights, taking the exit down there. Slow everybody down for now.
Found a casing and a vehicle was shot. 99 black Toyota forward.
15 was
negative.
Perfect, all right. Yeah, Delta 430, cancel Adam, get it all together. Southbound is clear as well, but I think the vehicle got off the highway with 410 communications.
RTA. With the North Staples till 12:32.
Yeah, looks like somebody got them off the road there near the service station on the bridge. Copy George Paul Mary. Yeah, we see one pole here with a transformer, but it's not smoking or arcing, but I'll go ahead and get your pole number here in a second. Red Delta 430, yeah, this is going to be the vehicle. Go ahead and show everybody clear.
Delta 410, I'll show you clear.
4930 clear.
2826 again. Going up now, 69 speaking to unconscious, is breathing. Adam, look off. 21-year-old took an ICU pill, currently unconscious, unable to wake him up on the floor. Cops are coming in.
12107, 12107.
43. Delta 430, Adam 430, I'll take this. That's right.
Ready normally first at 53. Mario. Alright, thank you much.
Delta 345, so now on a fire. Disregard. Putting up patrol 2 at 726. Delta 47. Cars advising there's 3728, Hornberry Court, 3728, the one main contact with Lydia. Show us at the point. The house. We're not too sure. Patient. Disturbance 4838 Orchid Lane, 4838 Orchid. It was a neighbor yelling at another neighbor. The suspect is Kathy. It's a pink brick home with a Mercedes in the driveway.
122.
37 North at Redbird. John Henry Mary. 3725.
602 North Staples, RTA. So male, black shirt, no pants, yelling and bothering people at the station. Being told us that RTA is touched.
There, are you over there? Is her? Are you by there?
The call advising us just past the station on the same side of the road near the...
Pull in the parking lot if you want to, or I can go down Carroll Lane right here. And you can pull in the parking lot, see if he's already jumped back over the fence, whatever you want to do. Simple.
He's on her.
You can take Carroll, take parking lot.
And I can help you with the...
No, just keep going straight and I'll turn on in since you're already ahead of me. Where's that street at, me? Yes, I'll just shine the light over here and if you want to black out. To the right? Going towards the freeway?
21-year-old male breathing but unconscious. Delta 4.
This is Unit 45, 44. He is a breezeway. He walks around. 45 and 4.
Copy dispatch.
No, her fees at 106.98. He's riding over Anthony. Got an additional... a third warrant.
And I just realized she's got a 6. Literally, right on the first street. And then you got to go around and go towards the side. Can you step forward, bring him straight through, and put him in, baby. From the 1004,
For Anthony Ford, he's going to the university.
clearing traffic again. And I'm also standing by here. Bronner on engagement with Jim George, 736.
Yeah, 441 Admiral. The South Texas Lighthouse. Suspect vehicle, the blue Buick St. Charles 125, St. Charles 125. Tried running the reporting party off the road. Saw a male driver with a ball cap that occurred at 6:45 this morning near the airport.
Route 51,
License plate. Is returning to a 2008 Saturn, red in color, to an address of 7001 Sunwest City. Possibly not the good plate. 7:30.
Burn, Sugar Ridge, and all those are open. They can take your with me, come back. Yeah, I'm going to pick up one more, you know, and then I'm going to take him over there because I don't want to take him later over there.
Color to a 14513 our city.
Thank you, sir.
Expired August 2 years. Confirmed.
Temple, we know who you're on custodial issue this morning. Yeah, but I have on board you with him. That's back to this city. He's not working out the orders.
Anybody want me to start my unit?
Four, I am. You want to pick him up? I'm running behind about 21 minutes. Let me call you.
Okay, which one did they not get?
Okay, I'll pick him up.
Okay.
Base, Route 42,
He's
let me
going to
pick him up,
be
base.
southbound 181 for a male on a bicycle. He's going to be in the lane. He has a backpack on. He was coming up to the bridge.
I'm sorry. 442. Serrano, Guadalupe Serrano.
Number 42316.
Leveled out so he can get water on.
42316. 474.
And work your way back towards the mountain.
1008.
Guys, let's go in info.
I hope you didn't enter screen. I'm going to have to say
411-98237. 411-98237.
to base 10-8. Thank you, ma'am.
16 inquiries.
I appreciate y'all.
Mobile
I
no emergency.
know it's been rough. I appreciate y'all.
Proper 20. 10-4.
Southbound side is clear.
3 to 5 minutes.
I'm running it down my...
Easy base, thank you.
Rod 8, radio check is today.
Negative.
John Ken, Zebra 2741. 58 radio check today from yard.
Should be a shed.
Deliver to base. Elizabeth, Gitella, Bay, both ways. Also, 17 Parkway.
099.
Correction, insurance confirmed. 2003 Dodge Ram pickup painted colors to 1 DS Junior out of Buckhead. 716 Iowa. Airport 40? 10-4, there's extra.
47.
Saturday?
Yeah, that's where here. That's cleared up. PD is 41. It's for the individual.
Frank Sam Victor 1403.